We're going to look at some CLI work. Within Tari, we have a monorepo that is a polyglot. So to break that down, we have multiple packages within the repo that are in different languages. So monorepo is the multiple packages. Polyglot would be the multiple languages. And that gets more involved to manage and push out assets from that, because most tooling is set up for a single language. So even if some tooling also considers a monorepo, it tends to not expect to do multiple languages as well. And the ones that did when we were getting things set up are effectively just a little bit of sugar on top of like make scripts. But we wanted something that also helped with doing our changelogs. So I created a package called covector. And I think that's what we're going to be pulling up today. We've gotten over the, I guess it's probably been, gosh, when did I do it? Here, well, let's flip over to the display. We'll pull it up. When did I start this? I think it's been a while now. So it's been some time. So we spun this up and we put a bunch of work into it and got it to sort of meet the criteria that we needed at the time. And it's been working well, but we're getting to the point where it makes sense to start to add a little bit more of the developer experience type features to it to help when using it. Especially since we're getting closer to pushing out Tari stable, this seems to be a package that might be useful for others publishing as well, because by having a Tari app, you end up pulling in both Rust and JavaScript. It's not, the pain isn't quite as apparent if you're just publishing a Tari app as compared to the things we need to deal with within Tari, like the main Tari repo itself. But there's definitely potential use cases there. So kind of want to look at the DX more and put some more effort into it. I'm ready on that. So I started an upgrade for one of the packages that we used called Affection. And I didn't quite finish it off, but I think I want to be able to use that and not any work we do today. I don't want to have to like pull that forward through that upgrade as well. So I'm just going to work off of this PR or off of this branch for the moment, but we're going to effectively add a whole new feature. See if we can knock that out today. Okay. So covector is at its core a CLI, which, if you're unfamiliar, stands for command line interface. So that means that the main form of interaction with this is typing in the terminal, as we have on the left here. And I've got a couple helper scripts to make it easier to work with, like the dev version of it. So we can do npm run covector, and I think it's just going to give us a status. Can't remember if I built or not. I might need to build. Probably need to build. So I was doing a bunch of this work on my other computer. Because this ends up being more of a free time effort. And I sometimes want to sit on the couch when I program, watch something on the TV with family while I'm doing it. So npm run build, and we'll try running covector again. So we've got a couple commands already built into it. There's sort of two main sequences that covector ends up being used with, and it's the versioning step. Okay, so I think it's doing a I want the maybe status like it was something, right? Yeah, and some of this messaging, I think it's grown organically over time, and I'd like to improve that situation a little bit. Okay, so we don't have any change files, and that was part of why that was confusing me there. So covector runs off of, let's go up and open up the repo, and pull up the README here. And most of our README is here. We've got a few commands. For the most part, the main interaction of covector happens in CI, and when you set it up, your CI system will be using version and publish. The version step happens when you create a Markdown file and put it in the .changes folder, and that signifies to covector that you want to take a package and increment its version. When you run this command, it will parse all of the Markdown files in there, apply the version updates, and do the changelog stuff as well. So this Markdown file, I think I've got this Markdown file has both a description via the front matter in Markdown of what type of change you'd like to apply, and then the summary about the change. So all of this can get parsed, multiple Markdown files with this. Thanks, Chris. It's been a day. It has been a day. There we go. Yeah, we're gonna do quote tweet. Here we go. Just a block of meetings right up to this, so is what it is. So for the most part, we've just been interacting through a GitHub action, and most of the places it's using it. Started Atari app, sweet. In the GitHub actions, for the most part, is running version and publish. Version opens up the PR, and publish is the thing that actually, when your PRs opened, merged, and the versions are bumped, I've got a good one actually that we can look at. I just did this last night. So this is what a version PR looks like. It describes the changes that have happened that are pulled out of the summary of the Markdown, and then it applies the version bumps. So we get We're going from RC2 to RC3, and it applies the version pub in the package.json as well. This happens to only be a single package in this repo, but if it was a monorepo with dependencies between all the packages, then it'll also do the dependency bumps as well, which is nice. So for the most part, everybody, for the most part, it's the use is generally through version and publish in CI. But when you're creating these Markdown files, it would be nice to have a function or a command within covector to make it easier to add a summary, especially as so let's look at the Tari config. I think it's probably one of the bigger ones out there, and might show you why we went through this effort. We're doing a bunch more steps in here regarding audits. And that's why this section is longer. These are the two groupings that we have. We have Rust steps, and we have JavaScript packages that get published, so JavaScript steps. And then all of our packages are here on down. And some of them actually have their own special steps as well. Which I feel like that shouldn't need its own step. But we're not going to deal with that right now. So you'll see these dependencies, and that's how we derive what the bumps between packages within the monorepo need to do. And then we can also invoke like specialty scripts as well after the versioning has been done. So we've got some static assets that need to be updated that keeps versions in sync that Rust needs. Try not to like dive into that too much. And this is basically the easiest way that we found to handle it. Make a little CLI that we invoke once we apply version updates. All right. So what's the Tari app that you're working on, Chris? Nice Trusted Venture admin stuff. That sounds fun. So speaking of Tari apps, I need to come back through and update some things on this. But I actually have covector hooked up in this to help publish the Tari apps. And the GitHub workflow, action workflow might be a fun thing to look at there. And at a higher level, your file system is kind of the thing that is holding the state, or it can be the thing that's holding the state as far as what version your packages are in and what needs to be applied to it. So at a higher level, covector is making it easier to manage that and expose information about what state it's in. So we've split this up into 3 different sections, I guess. Yep. And the first step is kind of let's find the state of what the repo is in. And we then go down 2 code paths. Either we are going to try to publish, will publish version. Okay, so I think here we go. We do a status. The status is assigned an ID. When we run this, it's going to have outputs associated with it that we can use within GitHub Actions. And that will let us no op on a version step if we're expecting to have to publish. So the status will tell us if we need to run a version step or if we need to publish. And here's where we end up using it. So if we are expecting to apply a version update, which would open up one of these PRs, then it'll do that, and it'll no op on the next two jobs. If we're expecting to do a publish, then it's going to no op on these two steps and start doing the create and upload assets. And the reason that this starts to get complex is because we don't have cross-platform building built into Tari because of many reasons. It's involved. but as of right now, we have to build on the platform that we're targeting. So we open up, we set up a matrix, and we open up a box, or we start a box for each operating system that we're expecting to create an app for. And we run through, build our Tari app, and then the last job is the publish step, and that does a GitHub release. This is an app. So when your app is released, it uploads the assets to the GitHub releases, and this is an option for a place that you can point people to download your app. So we want to look specifically at an additional command here. I don't know that our structure right now is the best to support that. Everything's kind of smushed together in this run, which I think over time we're going to start to split out. And we did that as we added an init command. So I think we're likely going to do the same. The CLI is parsing some args, and right here we're deciding if we're going to run init or just that mess of everything else. And we are using yargs, it looks like. Commander, I think, is probably the other big CLI for JavaScript out there. I don't know that there's terribly too much difference at this point, but we are going to spin up a new file and do an extra command. Where are other commands in? Like I think right now it's literally just a bunch of if blocks, which is okay. Configure is the other one. Yeah, so we definitely, I think it's gonna be helpful to start to split this up. Premature optimization and all that. So Chris, you're doing video uploading, content stuff, graphs. Interesting. So is this going to be kind of an internal use case, or are you expecting this as something that the consumers of Rust Adventure are going to be using? Okay, nice. I think, especially as we make it like easier to spin these up. Yeah. Especially as we make these easier to spin up. I think it's going to be interesting to kind of dig into some of these use cases where it's like, I just want, like, a CLI can be nice. But there's things that like there's use cases for a CLI and there's use cases for something that is a GUI attached to it. And like those internal things that would just be nice to throw a UI over it. I think that's going to be interesting to start to explore that more. We've been talking about for the Creatari app to start to add in recipes that pull in different templates. Nice. Honestly, this would be a website. Admin scripts. What kind of scripts? I guess I took admin scripts as like local things that you're running. Might be useful on mobile though too. Yeah, I kind of feel like that's gonna end up being the kicker. Like it felt initially to me like kind of bloating the ecosystem if we were going to support both mobile and support desktop. But honestly, the more I think about it, like these use cases, I think is interesting. Where it wouldn't normally make sense to do a mobile app. Okay. Oh, those kind of scripts. Gotcha. Okay. Like you need to trigger workflows, admin workflows. That makes sense. Um, yeah, like if you kind of just get a mobile app for free, that's kind of cool. Like, what is that? Like, what kind of use cases that does that end up opening up? I mean, there is definitely stuff that, like, if you make an app that's primarily intended to be more like a system tray app, that's probably not going to make sense on mobile. Um, but some of this other like admin internal kind of stuff, I could definitely see that starting to make more and more sense. Yeah, resetting users password when I'm AFK basically makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, so we want to effectively spin up another command here. CLI. We're really gonna need to clean this up, but we are streaming, so we're going to do what gets us to the actual content the quickest. Add. And the architecture that has grown over time doesn't make sense to fix that right now. We want to just call it add. And let's just copy the net. And paste. We are going to still need, so we're also using Inquire, and that is a package that helps with the prompts that come up in your terminal. So when you run this, it's going to give you options, and most of that ends up being handled by Inquire. So the initial like entry point into the CLI is 3 args, and once we get into the CLI, Inquire is going to be the thing that asks for more information if needed. Let's rename this to add. I think I'm going to want to just keep some of that shell here. Probably just strip out all this though. So you'll notice that I do in many of these commands actually return something, and that is partly for use cases where, for the most part, it's used as a CLI. But we're also bundling up a GitHub action. So being able to return something that can be used downstream in the GitHub action is useful rather than just completely relying on side effects. Let's just scribble all this, and we will. You can see this is what will. This we copied the init command, and there's an option in there if you want to include GitHub Actions scripts. So that's what a lot of this is. I think it's a pretty simple one. Yeah, so what we were looking at in Fanatter, this doesn't actually consider yet. But it likely will make sense too. So we're just going to start out simple, make sure we are getting something, that we have everything wired up correctly. Ran the wrong command. So this is using, yep. So this is just using Node when we run this directly. So I think what I'm going to do is just add or start the watch script. And our watch. Okay. So we've got, we're requiring add, we are yielding to it. Don't need that anymore. And we need to be exporting add. That feels redundant. Why did I do that? I mean, I guess. I don't know that I even need that in there though. Okay. Boop. All right. So we are, let's see, let's look at our dependencies. We are using affection, which is a wrapper around generators to make them feel more like async await. And I think the buzzwordy architecture is structured concurrency, and this affection kind of enables that. And so that's why within our scripts you'll see we're not using async await, we're using function star, which is a generator. You can see in the prompt, the pop-up modal thing, whatever they call it. And we're using yield. So those are generator syntax. That's fun. Dealing with Node 12. Yeah, and some of our dependencies aren't or weren't well typed. They might be better now. And I think I'm going to end up ripping out a bunch of them. Do we have any helper scripts that are going to help us out? For the most part, we're using, I guess most of Markdown is going to come up in changelog. Yeah. So I think most of the Markdown considerations we use remark in the unified ecosystem. we're not terribly up to date because major versions come out quite often in the unified ecosystem. And we're kind of just editing a changelog, and it's like, I remember when this was added, and like it doesn't round trip files very well. It'll parse the whole thing, then when you write it back out, everything is going to be updated into the syntax. So I suspect that I'm going to end up pulling out all of these and replacing with something that just shims in new data. I mean, we could still use like the Markdown syntax that we're using isn't terribly involved, that we can just write strings directly and shim them into like big content strings. So that might be actually what we end up doing here. Is there any reason to? Because we're writing out a string anyways into a file. So we're going to be creating a new file after this command is run. We probably could just take and stringify it and not even travel through Markdown at all. And I don't know that we even have any helper scripts or anything that makes sense to rely on as far as the Markdown stuff goes. So we do pull it in. So the apply and assemble are used to do the versioning and pulling the current state off the file system. I think it's probably the best way to say that. I think the only thing we really are going to care about is using this to I guess we don't even really need to do that either. Well, the thing we are going to need to do is we need to give the user options. So that's probably the thing we can start with first. We need to give them options for the packages that they want to publish. So you're going to be checking which packages you want to publish and the appropriate version incrementation for them. We'll probably want to play around a little bit with inquire and how that's pulled in. Inquire npm. I think it's got, yeah, it does have pictures, good. So I'm thinking we're probably going to do checkboxes. I think checkboxes, and then from there we can give them an option for which do they want to do a patch, minor, major for each that they choose. And then from there we can just write that into a string. So I don't even know that we really need to do any low-level stuff that makes sense to pull anything in other than parsing of this config file that we have. And we do have a helper function in the files package to deal with that. I'm not going to bother with what I've left commented out here, actually. Well, do they have an example? I was hoping they had an example I could just copy and paste. Does not look like it. Prompt. Then use user feedback for whatever. Okay. They do have examples. Good. Checkbox. Okay. Sure, we'll run with this for the moment. And we will slice and dice. Yield inquire. prompt answers. Okay. I'm not actually sure what that's ignoring. I don't. I think when I started using Inquire, it wasn't well typed. So we will then log that out. See what we're looking at. So this will give us a couple options. Looks like we got pizza toppings. Okay, so it's split up into sections, separators. Gotcha. We're not going to need any of the separators, so we can go ahead and nix those right away. And then it's going to return the things that you've selected. Is there a default in there? Disabled. Checked. Okay, so you can start with things checked. I don't think we're going to bother with that right now. So we need to give an array of choices. So we need to, from our config, pull a list of choices. And that makes sense to go into our files and use the helper function for that. So we're going to import config file. I don't need this. I'm going to need that. I had a bunch of issues in setting up the packages and types flowing between them too. So you'll see I just deleted it. I think I fixed it at this point. But I had a bunch of TS ignores just to hide some of this, to like figure out what the heck was going on. Setting up TypeScript in a monorepo and relying on that as the build system is not easy. And now TypeScript seems to have kind of walked back their opinion that it makes sense to use TypeScript as a build system as well as type understanding the types. Which means that you would use TypeScript to type check, but when you're building, you would use something like esbuild or Babel or what have you that is effectively just stripping out the types. And I think the idea behind that is that if you have your main process doing the thing where it's stripping out the types so you can run it, type checking can be asynchronous, or it can even be done just directly within your IDE. So you could have those as like separate processes because type checking is slow. And I think that's the main issue. They do have caching built in, so you'll see these tsconfig.tsbuildinfo, and that's the caching of those builds between them. I don't know. We've got it hooked up now. I think this will work. I think we can actually use types between them now, which will be nice. I'm going to take that off just to see if we've got... Promise void is not assignable. Yeah, so this is returning a promise, but we're yielding on it. I don't know if I want to mess with types on stream. It's a love-hate relationship, I think, for me. Okay, let's see. We want to... Don't remember what my input is for this because it's been a while since I touched this code. So we are going to do this. don't think we need to worry about that. I think config just needs to, I think you just need to give the CWD. I guess a little bit of background on what's going here. We have a function that lets us modify the config on the fly. And the reason we do that is because we, through GitHub Actions, actually inject steps into your config. So when you set up the version publish steps, covector injects actions, GitHub action type scripts within there as well, to like do the open up the GitHub release and such. And the reason we do it that way is we can inject a function, because our config is actually in JSON, so we can't write functions. But we want to be able to inject functions that do the GitHub things, and that's not something that the user actually needs to care about. They just want to be able to opt in. So user opts in, we then, through the action, inject GitHub functions that do like API call and mutations and that kind of thing. Okay, so I think we just want this. Type promise, config file is not assignable to, see, and that's the, what version is my TypeScript? That's been the other issue, is that where is TypeScript? Where are you? 4.5. The support in TypeScript for generators hasn't been amazing. And what gets even more interesting is that Affection is doing some things under the hood that we're not, when we yield on this, we're actually basically going through the whole, we don't have to call .next on it every time. And that's why you get this this generator that there's the t return and t next. So that's there's expectations on if you're calling .next, .return, or just the like, what's t? T is the I don't remember what t is now. T is the input. I don't even remember. So there's difficulties in working with generators in TypeScript, but then also Affection is doing some things on top of that I don't think TypeScript quite handles well, or at least I haven't figured out how to get TypeScript to play nice with it. So let's just see what it is. We're not going to worry about answers for the moment. We are going to look at what our config is. So we are getting back a object. And like we've typed this, so I mean, I guess we're typing it as a promise config. It is a promise. We're yielding on a promise. It should just return a string. Oh, not a string. Oh, you know what? Config file. No, it should be returning a config file. Why do we need to I don't know. TypeScript. Like it's not as Why does it think this is a string? Property packages. So it looks like I got some of my types. Now that I'm actually getting better at type checking, I could probably go back through and fix a bunch of this. I would imagine my types aren't perfect, which is maybe part of what is. So like this returns a string, and that's why it's thinking like next thing. All right, we're just gonna ignore it right now. We're going to just ignore all the TypeScript stuff because I think that is something else we need to clean up as well. Okay, so we get a config. We can do in object.keys config dot packages. Is it package or packages? Packages dot map. And we need to return. I forgot what that was supposed to be now. Is it name? Yep, object. Okay. Went back too many times. Object is this. Okay. Okay. Is that going to give you? Okay, that's a little bit better. So we need to return. I guess just that. There you go. Okay, so we got options. This will let us select stuff. And then we can return the answers. Answers is currently thenning into a stringified JSON. So it's logging it out directly. Let me grab my tea before I forget about it. Finally drinkable. All right. Still can't feel my tongue. I drank it too early. And it was hot. Okay, so our answers is giving us undefined, which is interesting. Okay. So let's clean up this a little bit. We want type checkbox. Our message is going to be, I guess, select packages to increment. You must choose at least one package. That makes sense to me. And then once we do that, we also want to reprompt with a use user feedback for something. So we can like reprompt, which is kind of interesting. And I think they've got an example of that. Nested call. Yeah, so we have another inquirer prompt within it. So our return right now is going to be packages. So answers dot packages. Okay, our choices are going to be patch. Going to be minor or major. And we want to prompt for each thing in the list. And I guess that probably means we want to do a list for each one. So what does that look like? At some point in the future, push new questions. Okay, so next. You can dynamically add questions to be asked. Okay, so I think what we want to do then is, we're actually not going to then. I think I want to use this next. I don't have a good reason for, but I feel like that's going to be easier to handle. Because we can do this, we can do for, I gotta just remember my for loop stuff. For let package of answers dot packages, or is it in? I'm bouncing between too many different languages. Or is it of? Of. Doesn't like property next does not exist on type inquiry. Oh. Does that mean we have to use RxJS? Some of these are actually really cool. Oh. I kind of don't mind that. I kind of don't mind that at all. 2 years ago. Ugh. Okay. Well, what's the code look like? I don't mind the look of that, but it seems like it hasn't been touched for a little bit. Well, we can always explore options later. I guess we're gonna do this. I kind of want to do the reactive thing, but I don't feel like I want to pull in RxJS if that's the implication here. Uses JS reactive extension to handle events and async flows. So I assume that, I don't think it's clear to me if I need to actually pull in RxJS or not. I mean, all we're doing is reprompting. So like, I guess dealing with that is the pain then. If we're reprompting every time, now we need to deal with like a second set of, we need to smush that all together. Which I guess is a little bit annoying, but it's not the end of the world. We want to do, like, at the end of the day, we want to have a, say package bumps with an object. We are going to have when we're looping through this, we are going to be setting this. Go to the return to that. I think that's probably going to be honestly the easiest way to deal with it. I mean, yes. We're just going to keep going. Inquire.prompt. We do need to yield. And this is going to end up being, I guess, one of those, right? Does not like that. Said I'm not going to mess around with TypeScript too much on here. So this should give us a bunch of package bumps with whatever we select. So like I'm going to select 2 packages. I'm going to need to give more context there, clearly. I'm going to say bump. We are going to make this dynamic. We want to say bump that with which. I'll have to work on the language a little bit more too. I think that's going to work. And then all we need to do, say all, and then from there we just all and just. From here, we write out a file. Try not to make the implication that any of this is easy. We don't. The music stopped. We are getting to the end of this, so we're going to. I'm going to use some little bit more upbeat music here. Okay. Let me know if that's too loud. I think it's probably fine there. Eh? Okay, so we need to do. We're going to just write out a file. How do we determine the file name? It's kind of nice to name the changes files with something that applies to the change itself rather than just some arbitrary string. So the reason we do this is we want this to work in both earlier versions of Node and more current versions, but we still want to use that promises API. and that moved. That moved how they're exporting it, the Promises API between 12 and 14, I think. So we're doing this dance to make it work for both, to make it work for Node 12 plus, which is what we're supporting currently. So we have our package bumps. I think we're gonna, from there we can start up writing a string. We need to do, we'll say const front matter. And then we need to do package bumps dot map. And we are going to map over each package and return a string. And that string is going to be the package and then the bump. I think I might need it in quotes. We're gonna put it in quotes. It's single or double, I don't remember now. Package dot, oh. Yeah, I guess we do object.keys. And we need the package bumps package dot version. So that should give us front matter that represents what we are expecting to be seeing. Did we do that too fast? We might have done that too fast. Oh, property version does not exist in type string. Oh. Property bump does not exist on type string. Package bumps is not a string. This is where we're starting to go away. Okay, so we need, this is not gonna like my types. Frustrating. I skipped types in one spot and now it's gonna keep coming back to bite me, which makes sense, but kitty. Yeah, yes. But no. I don't think that's actually gonna work on that. So basically my types are wrong. This is saying it's a string, and it's not. and it won't let it compile if I fix it. Or if I don't fix it, rather. There we go. There we go. We are now getting an extra space in here. So that gives us our front matter. Now we also need to prompt for the summary text. So I guess we just want to do a whole separate prompt for that. It feels weird to like just keep calling this and just keep doing a new prompt. But you know, all right, expand. I don't understand this expand. Expand. We're using checkbox, confirm, type input. I think we're probably going to say type input. We don't want to launch as an instance of the user preferred editor on a temporary file. I kind of don't like this type editor might actually be useful. Takes a bunch of properties too. Because there's going to be cases where you're typing in a string. Like that's the all this cat hair is in my face now, make my face itchy. There's going to be cases where you're just entering in like a phrase or a sentence. So like typing it right in the terminal is probably fine. But there's going to be cases where you want to do more. And I'm tending towards embracing that situation. So we're going to call it summary. What changes? No, we'll say, please summarize the changes that occurred. We don't have a choices object, I don't think. Just embracing my atrocities against TypeScript. So that should give us a summary. Now I think we can do we'll just say content. So we're going to have front matter. We're going to have the summary. I guess in this case it's summary.summary. I don't know if I'm thrilled with that. And then I usually like to add another new line on the bottom. So what does this look like? Rebuild, make sure I don't, oh, it's gonna not like that, yep. Object is of type unknown. Oh, we do need to do See, these are all putting them on the same line. We don't want that. So we need to do a new line there. We're getting, I think, all the other proper new lines. Summary.summary is kind of goofy. Oh, why are we getting a comma in there? Covector apply, minor. Covector assemble, patch. New line is apparently happening before a comma. So let's add a bunch. I feel like something is going on funky right there. Oh. No. All right. What is going on there? So it's actually what? What is Mike? Where is that comma coming in from? That is wild. Package bumps. Let's just double check our answers. We're gonna hide that for right now so we don't get confused. Okay, so we are getting answers. We don't actually have a. Oh. What's that saying? Must have symbol iterator. I think that's it. I'm surprised it was returning that. Okay, so this is answers. Okay, so answers is actually giving us. Okay, what? All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. I am doing something funny here. I think I might be mutating it or something, or might be getting mutated. So I select a bunch. Answers is giving us a list of packages. So I don't need an object.keys because we are going to have that. And we do want to do .packages. Did I get an updated? I'll rerun that again. I think we'll probably end up squaring away course, it would have been just faster to run it now. Come on, there we go. I think we'll get this squared away and we can write it out, and that's probably going to be it that we handle today, but that's most of what we need to do. Summary is not defined. It's fine. So answers.packages should be giving us what? So what's where do I have a for loop in here? I gotta have one somewhere around here. I suppose I can go look at MDN as well. I thought this would be faster though. I must be doing all the for loops and the other stuff. Kind of looks like it. Let's check out the new MDN. MDN for loop. I hear it has been updated. Holy. Wow. So there's for in. For in iterates over all enumerable properties of an object. For of loops over iterable objects. So we have an array, so we want to do for of, which we have now. Did we just fix that? So this should give us a good hello kitty, yes. I will give you some attention very soon. Let that recompile. Let's run you. Okay, so we are getting we're getting an object. And we okay. And just to confirm our front matter here. Okay, some of it is that. We are mapping over. We are applying the quotes, and then a bump, and then that. So for some reason, our package object.keys should be giving us. Oh. You know what? I think I actually kind of like this better. We're going to do answer.packages. It's not a string. I'm sorry. I know you don't like that. That's going to give us our package name, package bumps. I actually like that better. Yeah, I like that better. Try not to use object.keys too much. I don't think it's what? What am I doing? I mean, it's just a string. Oh! It's Friday. Map returns an array. If you try to stringify an array, it basically does like a dot join using commas. Did my slash the wrong way. We want that. Okay. All right. I hate every time I reformats. It's like readjusting the. But also, I'm not a huge fan of like using this as a. I mean, maybe I could just get rid of it, but okay. There. Okay. We're rolling. We're rolling. It's fine. Content. So now we have content. We can do. I am going to be a little bit cheeky. Maybe not be a little bit cheeky. Read, parse, write. So we're definitely using vfile to write. So vfile is another thing that's kind of in the unified ecosystem. I think we're gonna scrap that as well. The idea I appreciate behind it, but some of the implementation we don't have any actual use for, and it ends up making our test a little bit more messy than it needs to be. vfile is creating a virtual file, and part of that is a path to like where it's located, so it makes it easier to like read. You can read it, and then anytime you want to write it back, you just call .write on it. So you can take a vfile, which is effectively just an object, and just .write on it, and it'll write it out. You don't have to like worry about passing that path around or anything, because it's actually contained within that object. Yeah, a definitely necessary abstraction, and it's kind of cool that it. I think it has browser support too, doesn't it? So like that whole idea is nifty, but it has some things as far as like the history. Like you can do some like message history stuff, and most of what we're working with within covector is relative. So we're passing at a current working directory, and it's using that. I think it makes sense to just slash s. Totally didn't catch that. The Yeah, like all I really want is to save the path and the content, and I don't want that path to include like the full absolute path, because the um the path changes if I'm snapshotting that object or anything. If I do any snapshots that happen to contain the v file, I have to like start deleting pieces of that before I snapshot it, because it contains the full output path. Which obviously is not going to be the same between systems. So I think I'm going to end up just ripping all of that out and passing around an object that has the path and the content, which is effectively what I'm using it for right now. And that's going to be perfectly fine for what I'm using it for. So that being said, we are not going to use the vfile stuff. We are going to we're using the promises API. We can yield a promise fs.write write file. We want to do, we still have the join in here, right? Path. We're going to just use join. We're gonna join for the path. we are going to then give it the content. And we have the CWD floating around, and then the path is just going to be hard-coded for this for the time being. Boop.md. Okay. Now, what don't you like? Yeah, I mean, regarding vfile, like, I feel like there's some history there that I'm completely missing. Like, why? I feel like there's a lot that went into it, and really, all I was like, oh, this looks nifty. I kind of want to use it. And then the more I used it, I was like, well, I really just care about the path. I just want to keep the path in memory. I'm kind of curious, like, what the history is and why that abstraction felt necessary. Type promise is not assignable to type string. Oh. Yeah. Okay. All right. I haven't actually heard of anybody else using it, but it seems like it's one of those lower level things that's just pulled in everywhere. And like, I'm kind of curious actually what v file npm. That's a lot of downloads for not hearing anybody else using it. So like, I think it. I mean, I suppose they say it's specifically for Unified, but like, is anything else within the Unified collective using it for any more than the path? I mean, it must. I don't know. Seems like it's been receiving updates too, so the powers that be haven't determined it's unnecessary yet. Okay, so what I just realized, and why I kept getting that error. This is the other thing that it makes sense, but I have to remember it every time I come back to generators within TypeScript. When I'm doing a generator, I can either describe the state of all, or the data type of all the potential outputs of the generator separately, or you can just specify it once and it applies to everything. But this is saying that when I yield is going to be one of the things that returns on tnext. I'm specifying everything as a string, so that's why it's throwing an error. So I could probably do t. What is t? I can never remember what that is. TypeScript generator. I don't ever remember what the for. I don't want 3.6. Oh, fine, whatever. I think it's probably fine. I just need to know what t is. It'd be lovely if I could even search for it too. So tnext, t-return. So if you call on a generator dot return, it's gonna actually do return. I think t is just after everything's finished. Number string boolean. Yields numbers, returns string. Okay, so actually I think I have it flipped. Really? Generator. T return, T next. Can be passed in. I wonder if these are like a different order. Maybe that's why I'm confused by it. So every time you call dot next, you're invoking the next yield. The function is handling this all under the hood, but I think I basically want to do any return is what I care about. I don't think I actually need to say it's a return as a string. And then it can be passed in booleans. So that is basically saying every time you call .next, you can pass it like the previous context. I think it's mostly what that's used for. And it's saying .boolean is the thing you can push in or pass in. So I think that's what that T is. T is the thing that you can put into it. And I don't know that I care. I don't know what the appropriate value is for that then. Void maybe? It's not hating that. So that's type void is not assignable to type. I don't know. I think this will actually clear up all my TypeScript errors. Well, by golly. That's always the thing that I forget, and then I run across it and I go, oh, yep. For some reason, I can never keep that in my head. The way that it's exposing that error always makes me think it's an error with this return, which it technically is. But the fix isn't something to do with this or within the actual function itself. It's what the generator is expecting to return. It's just messes with my head. All right. Okay, so we are gonna write a file now. That should give us a boop. Assuming we didn't goof anything else up. Let's see your boop. Here we go. We do want to require a summary. I think there's a require. Not that require. Guess you need to do .validate. So we can steal this. We want our length. If answer.length is less than 1, you must enter a summary. There you go. I'm gonna remove the logs. And now we got that. So the only thing we need to think about is how do we name it? Yes, hi kitty. What do we want to name it? I mean, would it be weird to ask for a file name, I guess? I mean, I guess I could ask for a file name and then it's like it just comes with a default. And the default could be like, I don't know. I think we're just gonna ask for it right now, for the moment. Oh boy, kitty. Come on, tail. I swear this tail has a mind of its own. The tail is, by coincidence, attached to the cat, but it's two separate animals. File name, type input, name. Please summarize that. So I guess that this is gonna CWD. Do we have anything that, yeah, so there is a change folder. Is that part of the, I think that's a part of the config. Types, C. Maybe it's not. It's gotta be part of the config. I must not have just added in the types. I must have missed it. Change folder. Config, yep. Yeah, I totally just missed it. Let's add it to the types quick. Change log. Our config file should have a change folder, which is a string. Is there a path? Path like? String buffer URL. I mean, I guess that makes sense. That's probably more. I guess. Okay, so oh, and I am passing a change folder there. What? Really? So if we go to CLI, CLI is passing a change folder. And where are options? Options dot directory. Directory default is changes. Okay. So you can specify it on the command line. Kind of feel like I should also put that in the config, but we will roll with it for the time being. And we can replace this with the file.name. Please name the change file. You must enter I do want to, like, somebody might actually say like .md. Want to strip that out if they do. So I think I'm gonna do we're not gonna worry about that right now. We're not gonna worry about that right now. Oh, what did I do there? pressed something that actually selected everything. That was kind of cool. I don't know what I did. Summarize the changes. Lots of things. Changey. So for now, we're just going to say that MD. And I think this will give it to us. I think there's other things we can do to make this experience a little bit better and to make it easier for somebody to apply change that has a summary more than just a sentence. But I think this is probably good for a first iteration. Clean it up a little bit, push it out there. Kind of evolve it as the situations come up. Future. I think, and actually, I think a bunch of those. I've got TS ignores sprinkled everywhere. Generators have seen better support in the past, like handful of minors. So I think I could probably go back through and fix a bunch of those TS ignores because now generators are better supported in TypeScript. Now they just need to finish up their support for ESM. That would be very lovely. All right. I think that's what we're gonna do for today. I don't know that it makes sense to just save those or get rid of those because we don't need those. So we adjusted our some types. We adjusted the entry point to get into this command. We will likely change this to a switch statement where that also allows us to split out this run command, which is the yield covector on line 18 right now. We can split that out and it'll make handling all these separate commands easier to grok. Yeah, holds breath. Yeah, there's always stuff to do. And this has been one of those like side projects, but is needed and has been driven by has been organically grown on the on all the problems that we've had because we used to try to do this all directly in a GitHub action, which does not scale well. But I feel like that's how many of these packages start. They solve a problem, right? Cool. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for the chit chat, Chris. I'm excited to see where you take your little Tari up. We gotta be pushing out stable here pretty soon. But always things to do. Have a happy Friday. Have a good weekend. We'll pick this up again next week. I'm not quite sure what we'll do next time. There's probably some stream stuff I want to do. We were kind of working on that last time. And then when I eventually get in this last piece, I ordered in. Keep pulling this up. I got a better header. I'm not using that correctly. Found out after the fact. That's in transit though, so we're not going to stream that until I actually get it. Yes, definitely show you when I build it. Yeah, I'm excited. Cool. Have a good weekend. Catch you next time. Bye.